Introduction. Nice to meet you again for the first time. Welcome to the Golden Key, modern alchemy to unlock infinite abundance. First off, let me say congratulations. If you are reading these words, I would say that it is because you are ready to attract more abundance in all its many forms into your life. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, because expanded abundance is what this book represents energetically. And as we will explore within the following pages, we cannot attract anything into our lives that's not a vibrational match for where we are in our personal evolution. And let me be clear. Although adopting the perspectives I'm about to share will likely lead to an increased flow of monetary abundance in your life, that is just one reflection of our inherent abundant nature. You are quite likely to also experience increased abundance in health, abundance in relationships, abundance in time, abundance in peace, and in every other facet of your life imaginable. As you proceed, please know I'm not asking you to take my word on anything that I share in this book. All I ask is that you read these words with a curious, open mind and heart, and then be willing to experiment a bit by applying the perspectives that I share and let the results speak for themselves. Fair enough? I also invite you to pay close attention to how the words in this book resonate and feel to you energetically, as I believe we all have an internal compass that can help inform us as to the validity of information. In reality, I believe there's nothing I can tell you that your higher self or soul doesn't already know. I can only help you remember that which you have forgotten. So if you are willing to listen with an open heart and mind and humor me for a few hours of reading, buckle up your seatbelt because you are in for an incredible ride. I am going to share with you the 8 keys to abundance, which includes the golden key, the master key that ultimately links them all together. I've personally uncovered these keys over 25 years of trial, error, and deep exploration. Synchronistically, I unintentionally landed on 8 keys when writing this book. When I first shared this with my brother, he brought to my attention that 8 is considered a financially fortuitous number in both traditional and modern Chinese culture because it sounds phonetically similar to the Chinese word which means to generate wealth. Based on the title, some of you may be expecting this book to share wealth-generating techniques like trading stocks or how to manage your bank account. However, these 8 keys are not about how you can hack the system or get rich quick by doing something external to yourself, such as put X% of your paycheck in your savings account each month, or skip the Starbucks and invest that money in cryptocurrency, or save hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. Although that all may be helpful advice, it can only take you so far. These 8 essential keys are about unlocking the abundance that already resides within each of us, which those types of strategies completely overlook. As you will ultimately find, unlocking these foundational truths is the path to infinite abundance in all its many forms, because going beyond the surface to the deeper core of our being allows us to access the profound wisdom that will be crucial to create lasting success in the new world that is rapidly emerging. This text will guide you through 8 key shifts in perspective that, once used to unlock your life, can't help but attract more abundance as a natural byproduct. As the great teacher and philosopher Dr. Wayne Dyer once said, "If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change." In addition to reading this book, I am also inviting you to play a unique abundance manifestation game outlined in detail at goldenkey.gift and at the end of this book. This game will give you an opportunity to demonstrate to the universe that you are ready to generate more golden experiences in your life and begin your journey toward unlocking infinite abundance. To give you a quick overview, if you opt to experiment and play the game, you will choose to make a monetary contribution based on the amount of abundance you wish to cultivate in your life and the personal value you place on this book. And then you're going to set the intention to use your currency contribution as a symbolic marker of how much more abundance you want to flow back into your world. You will also perform simple yet powerful exercises to help you catalyze real, tangible results. As you and the other readers play this game, magical stories of synchronicity and abundance will inevitably unfold. At goldenkey.gift, you will also have the opportunity to share your results as well as see the inspiring results of others. Also, as we will discuss in the coming pages, I firmly believe letting your monetary currency flow when it is aligned with something with positive and pure intentions that also resonates with you personally is one of the key ways we accelerate more financial abundance flowing back into our lives. Which is why if you opt to play, I am going to practice what I preach by sharing 50% of the proceeds with you from anyone that you share your personal free book download code with that decides to participate in our abundance manifestation game as well. Further details at goldenkey.gift. The game is designed to help anchor into your conscious and subconscious minds proof that the claims made in this book are in fact real, and to powerfully demonstrate to you your own unlimited ability to call in any and all of the various forms of abundance that you set the intention to manifest. Ultimately, this game is designed to be your personal proof of concept so that after playing, you feel confident to continue to strengthen and flex your abundance manifestation muscles for the rest of your life. Information and concepts are great, but equally important is knowing how to apply that knowledge by taking action, which then leads to tangible results, something I've been fairly adept at doing in my own life. Speaking of being adept at achieving results, let me give you a little background on me and my personal journey with manifesting abundance. My name is Brandon Beecham, and I am a truth seeker and philosopher. I have also been a serial entrepreneur since childhood, and in 2011, I co-founded a company that is present-day ResortShare. In August of 2015, ResortShare was named the 569th fastest growing private company in America in the annual Inc. 5,000 fastest growing companies list. That same year, I exited ResortShare and began focusing on my greatest passion, exploring conversations about consciousness and what I refer to as the ultimate nature of reality on the Positive Head podcast. I am grateful to say that Positive Head has been consistently rated in the top 5 in the spirituality category on iTunes, Apple Podcasts for several years, and has amassed over 14 million downloads as of the time I am writing this. I am also currently stewarding Positive Head's evolution on the new late-night style, consciousness-centric variety talk show Optimistic. And The Golden Key is my first book. So how did I accomplish all of these things? How did I defy the odds and lead my company to achieve what 1 in 10,000 entrepreneurs is able to achieve? Launching a company with only a few $100s in my pocket and ultimately growing it to exceed $10 million in annual revenue without ever raising any startup capital. How did I create a top-rated podcast in a sea of other incredible podcasters with no prior broadcasting experience and virtually no marketing? How have I achieved uncanny health, which is arguably the ultimate wealth? How have I, at the age of 46 years young, enjoyed highly fulfilling relationships and managed to truly have more fun with each passing year? I firmly believe I have accomplished all of this by coming to understand the ultimate nature of reality, by learning the fundamental nature of the situation in which I find myself as a human being. The good news is, you too can achieve all of this and more, as you will come to realize while reading this book. I am not any more special than you. I have just come to understand the essential rules of the game of life, so to speak. And one of the reasons I want to share these keys with you freely is that I know that if you win, I win. That a rising tide raises all ships. I call it the good kind of selfish, which I'll explain the importance of in the coming pages. So then the question becomes, are you ready to experience the greatest and grandest version of yourself and unlock infinite abundance? If you currently are not living your highest potential, what is holding you back? Many people will tell you a lack of time and money are two of the main reasons they aren't living their best lives. Time is undoubtedly the greatest resource. Unfortunately, at our current stage of evolution, most humans trade a huge percentage of this priceless commodity for money, or rather, symbols that represent wealth, and yet have no inherent value themselves. But at its core, money truly is just energy. Everything is energy, for that matter, and that is not just a philosophical or spiritual concept. Science has proven that all matter, and non-matter for that matter, is energy. And this book is going to show you how to transmute and alchemize all the future energies you will experience, as well as past experiences that have impacted your life. According to Oxford Languages, alchemy is the medieval forerunner of chemistry based on the supposed transformation of matter. Alchemy is most notably known as an ancient, arcane process for combining and magically transmuting lesser metals into gold. The 8 keys shared within these pages will provide you with 8 expanded perspectives regarding the ultimate nature of reality that will empower you to unlock infinite abundance. If you apply the insights I am about to share as your new core operating system, this will undoubtedly lead you to a place where you can truly alchemize and transmute all of the pain and hardships you have experienced into something as radiant and powerful as gold. That being said, if you truly want to hit the game of life jackpot, you have to understand the fundamental rules and nature of the game in which you find yourself. Unfortunately, none of us were born with a user's manual, and most of us were handed well-intended yet outdated ideas from those who came before us that have often gotten questionable results. So, what are the core truths underlying the human experience in which we all find ourselves immersed in here on planet Earth? What is the ultimate nature of reality? What are the keys to utilize if we wish to begin practicing modern alchemy? The first key: see the oneness. Quantum theory thus reveals a basic oneness of the universe. Erwin Schrödinger, Nobel Prize-winning physicist. As we begin on this journey, some of the things we consider, imply, and explore may be difficult to believe at first. Perhaps they will feel too grandiose or impossible. But if you notice, even the word impossible itself breaks down to I'm possible. And if you're reading this book, you have most likely at least heard the concept that all is one, which is one of those grandiose concepts that can seem hard to fathom or wrap our brains around. That being said, I believe wholeheartedly that oneness is the underlying truth of existence, and an ever-growing number of people also appear to be subscribing to the same view of reality. More and more people are convinced that humanity is going through a massive evolution, and as we continue to evolve, I believe the old ways of operating from a mentality of separation will no longer lead to wealth and power the way they once did. I believe that generally speaking, within the span of recorded human history, we have been in a cycle designed so that humanity could experience the fullness of separation, the me against the world or caterpillar stage of our evolution, as I like to say. In this stage, history shows us that there have been countless instances where people were completely self-serving and actually achieved material abundance in the process. However, I believe humanity is now entering a new phase of evolution, the butterfly stage, where instead of being separation-centric and dominated by ideologies like me against the world, the focus is on coming together to collaborate so that we can create a new world where there is enough abundance for every human being to not only survive, but thrive. I believe we have entered the prime time in our collective evolution for humanity to remember and come together to create from the powerful truth of our existence that is rooted in oneness. The butterfly effect. I like to say that humanity is metaphorically moving into its butterfly stage as we slowly come back together into a state of beautiful cooperation and unity. Currently, as I write this book in late 2020, COVID-19 has demanded that the whole world cocoon itself and take a sacred pause for the first time in recent history, and it has inadvertently forced us to step back and take a long, hard look at the state of the world and much of the injustice we have traditionally accepted or just turned a blind eye to. We're starting to see an ever-increasing number of outdated structures and modalities that no longer serve us crumble. I believe 2020 will be looked back on as the year humankind moved into its COVID chrysalis. If you look closely at the journey of the breathtaking butterfly, it starts out as a funky little caterpillar that basically eats everything in its path with reckless abandon, oftentimes severely damaging plants and trees in the process. This is very similar to humankind's evolutionary journey throughout recorded history, doing unnecessary harm to Mother Earth, our fellow animals, and even purposely harming each other due to our narrow-sighted, separation-based perspectives and self-serving agendas. However, at a crucial point in the caterpillar's evolutionary journey, when it has done all the consuming and destroying it is divinely designed to do, suddenly new cells called imaginal cells begin popping up within the caterpillar. The imaginal cells contain the template for the butterfly that will be born. At first, the caterpillar cells view these imaginal cells as foreign invaders and quickly identify and destroy them. But over time, more and more imaginal cells begin to appear on the scene. They start working together until eventually the tide turns within the caterpillar, and the imaginal cells are the new dominant force that takes control. At this point, the caterpillar cells begin breaking down, and the caterpillar enters into its pupa stage, where it goes into a protective chrysalis so its full metamorphosis into the butterfly can begin. The caterpillar cells and all of the destruction that they precipitated now disintegrate into a goo that acts as fuel for the imaginal cells to feed on. In the end, the destruction that the caterpillar inflicted was necessary so that the imaginal cells could have the required fuel to transform into a butterfly. As opposed to the destructive regime of the caterpillar, the butterfly has an agenda that is symbiotic with nature, carrying pollen from plant to plant, helping flowers, vegetables, and fruits to produce new seeds. Sound like the journey of any other species you know? This is a perfect metaphor for the evolution of humankind. If we view the human race as one large organism, each individual can be seen as a cell within the larger being that is Mother Earth. In the past, when the imaginal cells of the human organism would pop up speaking out about unity, unconditional love, and oneness, they would quickly be silenced, ridiculed, or in many cases even killed. However, just like in the caterpillar, the tide eventually turns. Today, more and more imaginal cell-like humans are working together to begin the great shift into a new era for humanity. Of course, it can look messy at this stage of humanity's evolution, just like it does for the caterpillar. But fear not. Just when the caterpillar thinks its world is ending, it becomes a butterfly. You're a star, baby. If you wish to attract more abundance into your reality during this new era that is dawning on our planet, it's important to understand why operating from a perspective of oneness is the most foundational key to implement. So we're going to get a little geeky and start by looking at some of the ever-growing scientific evidence that points to this ultimate truth. The first stellar thing to understand when you're exploring this concept of oneness is to understand humankind's origin story. We think of our bodies as beginning at conception within our mother's womb and slowly inching closer to death with each passing day. This is a relative truth, but really, we need to expand our perspective and look back to the womb of all creation itself to get a glimpse of our true nature. The truth is, you're a star baby, baby. When acclaimed astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson was asked by a reader of Time magazine "What is the most astounding fact you can share with us about the universe?" He replied, "The most astounding fact is the knowledge that the atoms that comprise life on Earth, the atoms that make up the human body, are traceable to the crucibles that cooked light elements into heavy elements in their core under extreme temperatures and pressures. These stars, the high-mass ones among them, went unstable in their later years. They collapsed and then exploded, scattering their enriched guts across the galaxy. Guts made of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and all the fundamental ingredients of life itself. These ingredients become part of gas clouds that condense, collapse, form the next generation of solar systems, stars with orbiting planets, and those planets now have the ingredients for life itself. So that when I look up at the night sky and I know that, yes, we're part of this universe, we are in this universe, but perhaps more important than both of those facts is that the universe is in us. My atoms came from those stars." So from a physical perspective, the building blocks of the universe are continually recycled. We are literally all composed of atoms that once were part of stars that lived out their entire life cycle for billions of years in radiance, from infancy to adolescence to adulthood, old age, and then ultimately died via a dramatic explosion, supernova. After they finally died, their atomic remains spread out across the universe. At some point, they reformed into planet Earth, and eventually you. I personally find it immensely empowering knowing that the history of my physical being is rooted in the heart of a star. Whenever I doubt myself and my potential to be the person I want to be, to attract abundance into my life that seems near impossible by most standards, I think about the profound implications of my origins and our collective potential. Our human doubts seem laughable next to the sheer improbability and complexity that all life, including us humans, formed from the cradle of the cosmos. When you feel small and your goals feel so far from reach, remember what you truly are. If you have ever wondered if you too could be a star, well, wonder no more. You are made of stars. It's all space. The next big misconception that I would like to discuss is the supposed solidity of the physical matter that comprises the universe. Matter is not actually the rigid, dense material that it appears to be. Atoms, which are famously known as the foundational building blocks of all physical structures throughout the known universe, are actually about 99.99999% space. If you remove the empty space from the atoms of all people, the entire human race could fit in the volume of a sugar cube. This puts a whole new twist on that 80s song, Pour Some Sugar on Me, eh? And the particles that do make up this so-called matter are not actually solid at all. They are vibrating light waves of energy that are ceaselessly popping in and out of existence at an extremely rapid rate. The truth is, we have no idea where they go when they disappear or where they come from when they reappear, but we know just enough to see that they are intelligent and highly organized whenever they show up in our universe. So as it turns out, reality works much like a film and a movie projector because these light particles flash in and out of existence so quickly our eyes can't perceive their inconsistent attributes. These patterns of light particles flicker so rapidly that they give the illusion of looking and feeling solid. But the truth of the matter is that there really is no solid matter. And since you are made up of this ethereal matter, you are also nothing more and nothing less than highly organized and intelligent vibrations of light energy that the universe is projecting onto the screen of your life. The star of your own movie. Let's get spooky. When you look at what quantum physics has to say about all of this, it really starts to get strange. As famed quantum physicist Niels Bohr once stated, if quantum mechanics hasn't profoundly shocked you, you haven't understood it yet. The phenomenon called quantum entanglement, or Spooky action at a distance, as described by Albert Einstein, further demonstrates the connectedness of the universe. When you bring together two photons, they become entangled. Then, when the two photons are separated and you change the state of one of them, the other photon instantly reacts and changes also. And when I say instantly, I mean faster than the speed of light. Scientists have successfully transmitted entangled photons between a satellite and Earth at a distance of over 750 miles. Put one photon in outer space, do something to the entangled photon on planet Earth, and the one in space will instantly react. So if you've ever wondered why you can sense when something is wrong with a loved one, it's because we're closely entangled with the people that we love. Quantum physicist Nassim Haramein also points out a very interesting signature from the architect of the cosmos that strongly implies oneness, and that the macrocosm is merely an extension of the microcosm and vice versa. He explains that we now realize empty space is not so empty, that the vacuum of space itself contains energy. If we look at the nucleus of an atom to observe how much of it is empty space, we find that 10 to the 55th grams of vacuum energy is present in a proton. Well, it just so happens that 10 to the 55th grams is also the mass of the universe. So essentially, there is the mass of the universe present in the volume of a proton, which is a very, very small entity. Nassim went on to say that this confirms something fundamental to him. It confirms that the vacuum is truly the thing that connects all things. It showed that everything is entangled and that everything is one. So if matter isn't truly solid and everything is connected, what is going on behind the curtain of creation? Max Planck, another Nobel Prize-winning scientist and founder of quantum theory, said, "All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter." So what is this intelligent mind? What is this force? Consciousness. The Maharishi effect. Have you ever thought of a new idea and then all of a sudden someone invents it? At first pondering this, it might appear to be nothing more than a well-timed coincidence. But upon further inspection, there's more and more evidence that points to the reality that there's something more to this. A collective field of consciousness that connects us all. In 1960, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi predicted that 1% of a population practicing meditation would produce measurable improvements in the quality of life for the whole population. One notable instance where this phenomenon was demonstrated and documented was over a 7-week period in Washington, D.C. in the summer of 1993. A group of meditators set out that summer with the intention of reducing crime in the U.S. Capitol. The experiment started with 800 meditators and over the 7-week time period grew to 4,000 participants. Before they began, the researchers publicly announced that they expected to have a 20% success rate in reducing crime in Washington that summer. They had the confidence to announce this prediction up front because they had conducted this same kind of experiment previously and had achieved a 20% reduction in crime at that time. Since summer is traditionally the highest crime rate season of the year in DC, this prediction seemed absurd. Not to mention, violent crimes had already been on the rise during the first half of the year leading up to the experiment. At the onset, the chief of police even chimed in by stating that 20 inches of snow would be the only thing that could possibly decrease crime by 20% in Washington, D.C. that coming summer. However, once the experiment started and as the meditation group grew, the drop in crime followed suit, just as was predicted, dropping proportionally with each passing week as the number of meditators increased. Ultimately, the largest reduction occurred near the end of the experiment, peaking at 23.3% when the group of meditators was at its largest. The statistical probability that these incredible results would occur by natural variation or chance is less than 2 in 1 billion. All is one. Act accordingly. So now that you can see a few examples that we are made from the same stuff physically, and also that all life is composed of one interconnected field of consciousness, it's easier for you to start to see the oneness and also begin to understand why it is such a foundational and fundamental key to unlocking abundance. It essentially means that at some level, all of the abundance we see in the world is an extension of ourselves, the opposite of our usual narrative that we are separate from the abundance we seek. So once we accept this, the question then becomes, how do we access more of the abundance that is essentially our birthright, which up until now has been lying just out of reach? A perspective shift is key. Implement the mantra, all is one, act accordingly, as a foundational truth in your heart and mind to begin to shift your perspective to always and always see the oneness. This is why you'll notice I sometimes use the word understand, because it implies a deeper understanding, one that comes from the heart, a deep knowing, unobstructed by the human ego, arising from unconditional acceptance that all is one. As a whole, this is going to require you to tap into your childlike wonder, curiosity, and wits to get your hands into the proverbial cookie jar high up in the pantry instead of gazing up at it, salivating from far below. And for that to happen, it is going to be helpful to not only understand how to reach the container, but also to understand how to unlock and gain access to the infinite treats inside. Well, if nothing is solid and everything is simply vibrations of connected energy, could the cookie jar be just like the spoon in the famous scene from the movie The Matrix? In this scene, Neo, also known as the One, is trying to bend the spoon with his mind unsuccessfully, and the young boy who is doing it effortlessly looks at him and says, "Do not try and bend the spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth. There is no spoon. Then you'll see that it is not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself." So then, in fact, you won't need a tall stool or ladder to reach the cookie jar. Instead, accessing it will require a shift in perspective, that there is no cookie jar, and you've actually had access to the infinite treats all along. To summarize, our first foundational key on this journey is to see reality as an extension of self. To no longer see it as a series of separate people, events, and resources, but rather to unlock the knowing that everything is interconnected. When you start to alchemize the old story of separation and remember to see the oneness, a natural impulse arises to do all you can to facilitate coming back together with the other yous/members to help them re-member as well. You will also inevitably come to the realization that there is no separation between you and the abundance you desire. It has simply been lying dormant deep within the cells of your being, waiting for you to stir from your slumber. The second key, know the illusion. Once upon a time, I dreamt I was a butterfly, fluttering hither and thither, to all intents and purposes a butterfly. I was conscious only of my happiness as a butterfly, unaware that I was myself. Soon I awaked, and there I was, veritably myself again. Now, I don't know whether I was then a man dreaming I was a butterfly, or whether I am now a butterfly dreaming I am a man. Zhuangzi, 4th century BC Chinese philosopher. For the second key, know the illusion, I'm going to lay a bit more scientific groundwork before we ascend with the future keys into other more esoteric, non-physical, or spiritual realms, which I believe to be the source of the stream from which all abundance flows. Important to note, when I use the word spiritual, I'm not talking about organized religion per se, as most religions typically point to some supreme power external from oneself. I am referring to your own infinite power that exists within your consciousness, outside of time and space, which, as you're about to see, are illusory. Famed astrophysicist Carl Sagan alluded to the fact that science and spirituality are actually two sides of the same coin when he said, "Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality." So what does science show us about the ultimate nature of reality? Albert Einstein was famously quoted as saying, "Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one." According to Webster's dictionary, an illusion is perception of something objectively existing in such a way as to cause misinterpretation of its actual nature. The ancient Vedic and Hindu teachings refer to our physical reality as Maya, an ancient Sanskrit word that translates to illusion. Maya is essentially interpreted as the illusion that makes the world appear as a duality, as opposed to allowing us to perceive the truth of the universe, that all is one. In fact, the word universe, or universe, can be interpreted to mean one song. Could these ancient teachings be correct in implying that most of humankind has been flying blind for all of these centuries? Could this dualistic lens that humankind has been primarily perceiving reality through be the root cause that has unnecessarily led to war, starvation, poverty, and suffering for billions of people throughout history by convincing us that we are separate from all that we perceive and therefore lacking? Did the 13th century mystic poet Rumi actually have it right when he proclaimed, "You are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop"? If we are indeed as vast and abundant as the entire forest, and not just a single struggling sapling, perhaps health, happiness, money, and all forms of abundance actually do grow on trees. Let's shake them a bit more and see if we can get some golden leaves to fall upon our path. Touch me if you can. As we previously discussed, our bodies are 99% space. And to take you even further down the rabbit hole of weirdness, did you know that you never actually touch anything? When we are supposedly touching something, what is actually occurring is that as the atoms in our hands approach the atoms of whatever we are seeking to touch, and just prior to us making real contact, atomic forces stop us from doing so. What we are really feeling when we think we are touching something is the mutual atomic repulsion between our hand and the other object from a very small distance. So what this means is nothing ever truly touches anything. Second-hand information. Okay, so we never touch anything, but we can at least count on the consistency of our reliable clocks, right? Well, let me ask you this very serious question. Why should you never believe a clock? Because it's usually second-hand information. Get it? Second-hand, like the hand of a clock? Okay, corny jokes aside, this bad dad joke actually contains some dad-level wisdom. Einstein gave us a peek into the illusory nature of time with the twin paradox. The twin paradox states that if you separated my mom and her twin brother at birth and sent my mom into outer space at light speed, then brought her back a year later, she would be 1 year old. Meanwhile, her twin brother that was left behind on Earth would now be talking in complete sentences. This demonstrates to us that time is actually dynamic, as opposed to static, as most of us have always believed. In actuality, time is malleable and does not always tick away in a predictable manner. The Sims are alive. Now that science has proven that nothing is solid, everything is vibrations of energy, we don't ever touch anything, and time is an illusion, more and more of the brightest minds on the planet feel comfortable postulating about what actually may be the ultimate nature of reality. And a growing number have started to step forward, such as astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, to suggest that there is a high likelihood we are living in a simulation. So what exactly is a simulation? As host Greg Braden explains in his deep exploration of simulation theory on his show Missing Links, a simulation is essentially an experience that allows us to immerse ourselves in another external environment with the intent of mastering that foreign environment in a safe way without causing risk to ourselves. A virtual reality game is a good example of a simulation. It has a beginning and end, defined rules, and natural rhythms and cycles. Users have access to a reality outside of the simulation that they can tap into for guidance if necessary. However, as technology continues to improve, it will be harder for users to tell the difference between a simulation and the real world. A day will come in the not-so-distant future when the difference between the reality at hand and a virtual simulation are indistinguishable to the human eye. Director of the Future of Humanity Institute at the University of Oxford, Nick Bostrom, brought the topic of simulated reality to the scientific forefront in 2003 when he published the paper, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?, where he proposed a trilemma that he calls simulation argument. In his paper, he doesn't directly argue that we live in a simulation. He lets us deduce that for ourselves after examining and putting to the test the only potential outcomes of a developing civilization. He argues that one of three outcomes is inevitable for any civilization. 1. A species becomes extinct before becoming post-human, which essentially means a species that has solved all the major problems that threaten their ultimate survival. 2. A species becomes post-human, but opts to only utilize low technology. 3. A species becomes post-human and continues to develop higher technology. He asserts that a post-human civilization that continues to develop higher technology would have incredible computing power, powerful enough to run high-resolution simulations, which he referred to as ancestor simulations. The simulated ancestors, or sims, within these ancestor simulations would be incapable of telling the difference from the original base reality because the two would be essentially indistinguishable. And because any one ancestor simulation could have countless sims within it, even if a small percentage of original ancestors from the base reality were to run these simulations, the number of sims would be far greater than the total number of original ancestors. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Bostrom used an algorithm to determine which of the three scenarios is most probable, and he found the third to be the most likely. As eccentric entrepreneur and futurist Elon Musk puts it, if this were indeed the case, then since there would be billions of computers or gaming consoles in a high-technology post-human society, the odds we are in a base-level reality as opposed to a simulation are only 1 in billions. So what's the point? If you consider a jet pilot in training, the point of using a simulator is for the trainee to master the necessary flying skills in a safe environment so that they can use those skills in a future environment when the stakes are much higher. So could it be that we are currently in a simulation to develop certain skills we will need for future incarnations, or for when we get back to the quote-unquote base reality from which we originally departed when we were born on planet Earth? If it is all just a simulation, doesn't it stand to reason that knowing the rules of the game and following them is the path to lead to more abundance? When you learn the patterns and rules of a video game and diligently follow them, you achieve higher and higher scores, ultimately unlocking more goodies the more you play. I firmly believe that is a situation in which we find ourselves, and the reason most people aren't as abundant as they would like to be is that they are playing the game of life and they don't really know the rules. They simply haven't found the keys to unlock the next level of their lives, and as a result are oftentimes running in circles on the same old level. I think the characters on the G.I. Joe Saturday morning cartoon I watched as a kid had it right at the end of each episode when they said, "Knowing is half the battle." And now that you know the illusion, you have a key that brings you one step closer to unlocking infinite abundance.